Hey there, developers. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're continuing our series on the Model Context Protocol, but with an important twist. We'll be implementing an MCP server using only the core Java SDK, no Spring Framework needed. For those who've watched my previous videos on MCP introduction and Spring implementation, today's tutorial will expand your toolkit by showing you how to work with the standard Java implementation. This approach gives you more flexibility and lighter dependencies when Spring isn't needed in your project. I'll be walking you through setting up the core MCP Java dependency, implementing an MCP server using the standard Java SDK, working with the default transport implementations, testing your implementation with the MCP Inspector tool. The MCP Inspector will be our testing companion throughout this video, helping us verify our server implementation works correctly and followed the protocol specification. So what are we waiting for? Let's fire up our IDEs and dive into building a streamlined MCP server with pure Java. All right, before we dive into some code, I just want to share this website with you, modelcontextprotocol.io. This is where you can find out all about MCP. More importantly, if you go into the SDKs, into the Java SDK, you can find out all about what we're going to do today. There is a lot more information than what we're going to cover. We're going to kind of do a hello world, a simple example of this, but you can find out features about the Model Context Protocol Java SDK that allows you to build MCP clients and servers. You can go down into the architecture. Again, I wanted to point this out because I think this was something that was a little confusing at first. This was donated by the Spring team, but you do not need Spring to use this. So the core io.modelcontextprotocol.sdk provides the default STDIO and SCC without requiring any external web framework. So that is important. But if you are a Spring developer and you want to get some optional dependencies in there using something like Spring, you can do that. So you can go down, look at the architecture, see how this kind of works. And then we'll get into this in the actual code. But here are the dependencies. If you're using Spring, these are some optional dependencies that you can bring in. But this is the only one you'll need. We'll bring in some other a couple other dependencies. I think just one, just for logging. But that's all there is. But again, go ahead and read through the documentation. With that, let's head over and create a new Java project. And I'll take myself off screen here so we can take a look at this. But I am just going to use IntelliJ. I'm going to come in here and say Java. And what are we going to call this? Let's call this hello. Actually, let's call this the JavaOne MCP. I'm going to use this as a simple example today. We're going to use Maven JDK24. I'll say dev.danvega, and that is my artifact. I'm going to go ahead and click create, and that will open us up in IntelliJ. So we need to add a couple dependencies here. I'm going to add some dependencies for that Model Context Protocol and for SLF4J, just so we have some logging so that when things happen in the application, we kind of know what's going on here. I'm going to bring in some dependency management here just so we can set the versions. And that looks pretty good. So we are using the latest version of the Model Context Protocol SDK, which is 0.9.0 at the time of this recording. And then that version of SLF4J. Okay, I think we are okay. I think we should have everything we need. We are using JDK24. That looks good. Okay, so let's talk about what we need to do in this application. And we're going to remove some of this boilerplate that we get with IntelliJ, which is okay. Oops. And let's go ahead and remove that. So I'm not going to start in the main class. I'm actually going to start by creating a couple different classes. Before we get into the MCP stuff, we're going to just write some normal Java here. So I'm going to create a type called a presentation. So presentation, and this will be a record. And this is going to represent a presentation from JavaOne. I'm basically going to create a list of the available presentations from JavaOne that are available for replay on their YouTube channel right now, which will just contain a title, a URL, and then a year. So let's say year. And so that will be the extent of it. Again, this is just for creating a simple example here. So then we'll need some class to represent like a list of those presentations. So really this is, we're augmenting the LLM. We are giving it some tools. So I'm going to call this a presentation tools. And this is going to be a class. And we are going to say that we need a list of presentation. And we'll call those presentations. And let's just go ahead and initialize this to a new array list. Instead of me typing out all of these presentations, I've prepared that off screen. So we have some presentations here, the two keynotes, Concerto for Java and AI by Thomas Vitale, Stream Gatherers, AI 202, and Sequence Collection. And then I just add all of those to our collection. So from there, I'm going to create a couple different methods here to be able to access those presentations. So let's say that we have get presentations, which will return presentations. And then I will have get presentations by year, which can filter them out by year. This is the only one I'm going to implement for now. Just again, just trying to get like a hello world off the ground. So I have presentation tools. That should give us enough to kind of start writing our MCP server. And we're going to do that here just in the main method, just to keep this simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a logger. Again, we have SLF4J on the class path, so we can do that. And then I'm going to need access to the presentation tools. So I'll say presentation tools. And actually, we want that to be static. Presentation tools. We'll call that presentation tools equals new presentation tools. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to set up a transport. Now, we support in the official Java SDK right now, STDIO and server sent events. I'm just going to use STDIO here. So STDIO server transport, right? And we're going to go ahead and say new STDIO server transport provider. And we're just going to pass in a new object mapper. Now, that is coming from Jackson. This is a dependency that the model context protocol dependency pulls in. So we have access to it. We can say that. And then I'll go ahead and call this the transport provider. Also, I am going to say var here just to keep things a little more concise. And then we're going to need what's called a sync tool specification. So sync tool specification. And let's go ahead and create a method to do this. So get sync tool specification, right? So let's go ahead and create this method. So we have a method to do that, and that is going to return. Let's do this. Var sync tool specification is equal to that. All right. So this is actually going to return a specification. So we want to say, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy. Let's not do that. I want to kind of walk through this. So let's do this. MCP server features dot sync tool specification. That's what we're returning there. So that satisfies this. And now we need to do a couple things in here. So first, I'm going to copy some schema. This is coming straight out of the documentation. That's kind of where I copied it from. And so the schema for this, in this case, is just an operation. The type is string. If you had like arguments to the operation, then you could pass those in as well. But this is specifically for that one tool called the get presentations. That's what we're building up here. We're trying to define that tool that we're going to make available, which in this case is the get presentations method in that presentations tools class that we made. So now what we need to do is say MCP server features dot sync .sync tool specification. Yes. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say, here's our MCP schema tool, and we need to give it a name. This is what's going to show up in the tool available tools. So in this case, I'm going to say get presentations, and then we define a description. So get, I spelled get, G-I-T, developers will love that. Get a list of all presentations from JavaOne. If we had some loaded from last year, that would work as well. And then we need to pass in that schema that we created earlier. So now that we have that, we are going to take a lambda here and then do a little bit more. Why is that not formatting for me? Oh, that's probably why I'm missing that. Okay, so now what I want to do is this is going to get the exchange and the arguments. Arguments, right? And then we can go ahead and use those. So this is the tool implementation. And now what we want to do is get a list of presentations. So I'm going to say presentation tools, get presentations. So let's create a var from that, and we'll call that presentations. I am going to, now I can't just pass this into, so I have a list of presentations, but if we look at let's say what return new MCP schema.call tool results. If we look at this method, yes, let me jump there. Call to tool list of content. Yeah. So this takes a list of content. So content is coming from MCP schema, and this is an interface, and this is a type. So I can't just pass in my list of presentations. So I need to somehow format my presentations into the content type. So I'm going to say a list of MCP schema.content, content, and let's call this contents, and we'll just say this is a new array list. So then what I'm going to do is just loop over my presentations. So present, yep, that looks good. And then what I'll do is just say contents.add new MCP schema text content, because this is text content. And then I'll just take the presentation and turn that into a string. Okay, so now we have that. We can go ahead and pass this in and false. Okay, so now we have a way to basically transform this method, which is the method we wrote, into something that the MCP schema will basically translate a call tool result. So this is what it's returning. So with that, we can basically return. So now we can turn this into a var, and we'll call this sync tool specification. So that's what gets created, and that is what we can return back from this method. Okay, so but again, if we wanted to implement like the get presentation by year, then we would create another sync tool specification, particularly for that that method that we have in our presentation tools. Okay, so now we have a sync tool specification. Now we can go ahead and create a server. So I'm going to say MCP Server .sync, and I'm going to pass in our transport provider, and then we're going to configure it a little. So I'm going to say server info. We're just going to give it a name. So JavaOne MCP Server, and we'll say this is 0.0.1. Then we're going to call capabilities. So we're defining what capabilities it has, and we're going to use a builder for that. So MCP schema.server capabilities.builder. And we're going to define some capabilities here. So this is tools, and we're going to say, yes, we are going to enable tools. We are going to enable logging, and just go ahead and build that. And then finally, we say tools. Here's the sync specification tool. So that's the tool that we are adding to this. Again, if we had more tools that we wanted to provide, we could. and then we're just going to go ahead and build this. So that will give us our server, sync server, whatever you want to call it. And we are ready to go. So I'm just going to log some info here, say starting server. So it might seem like a lot, but at first, like, there isn't. So we're defining a transport. We're defining this tool specification. So in this case, this is the tool I want to make available to the MCP server. And again, this part is kind of specific to building the MCP server, but the rest of it is your Java code, right? Like, this can be whatever it is. In this case, I just wrote a class that had an in-memory collection, and I'm returning that to this. But all of this is outside code. That's code that you're writing to implement whatever feature you are in this particular MCP server. And then we set up a server. And once you do this once, this can be pretty much like I could copy and paste this into my next MCP server and get up and running. So I think this is all I need. Let's see if this builds. So what I want to do is actually build a jar file for this. So I'm going to say nvm clean package. And it looks like a success. So we have a jar file. This jar file is what I care about, and this path is actually what I care about. So I am going to, take that, and I'm just going to copy it, and then I'm going to head over to a terminal here, and we are going to use the MCP Inspector to test this out. Now, previously in the other video I did with Spring, I had to like jump back and forth between Claude Desktop, which is the client, and the server. I since found out about this MCP Inspector. It's in the documentation for MCP protocol. This helps out a lot. So I want to just go ahead and run that using npx. Again, all of this is in the documentation. And now once I do this, I'm given this MCP Inspector. So here I pick the transport type. We are using STDIO. I am saying the command that I'm going to run is java-jar. This is going to change. This is the one that I am running now, right? Yep. And then, although we should rename that version, but it's okay. So now what I want to do is try and connect to that MCP server. This is some logging. This is, again, while we brought in SLF4J, we want to be able to log what's going on in there. And let's see if this works. So now it looks like something's going on here and causing this not to work. Error from no manifest. Okay, so we can fix that. So let's go back into our pom.xml. And I did forget one very important step here. So let's go ahead and bring in the Maven Shade plugin. And this will tell us like, hey, where's our main application class? So let's go ahead and rename this just because that's what I had it. So application. And again, you can copy this right from the Git repository, which will be linked in the description below. So this is part of packaging it. And I should have noticed that when I didn't get what I wanted from an artifact standpoint. So let's go ahead and try and run this again. And yes, so now this looks a little bit better. So this is what I want. So let's try this. Oh, still an error. Oh, I am doing the copy and paste game. So dev.dan Vega. All right. Third time is a charm, friends. Don't worry. I like doing this. I like seeing mistakes in videos and seeing how we fix them. So let's try and run this again. Connect. See here, starting server. So we know that our logging inside our main application class is working. And again, you want to bring in that logging because that helps when you're trying to figure out what's going wrong here. So everything looks good. Now we get this window over here. We can call list tools, which the clients are going to do. So if you're using something like Claude Desktop, it's going to make a call to the MCP server, get a list of tools that are available. That way, when you're in the client, you know what tools you have available to you. So I have one tool here called Get Presentations. It says that it's get a list of all presentations from JavaOne. Again, this name and this description was what we wrote in the code. I can go ahead and run tool, and now I can see that these are available here. So let's do one more check. I've already kind of loaded this up into Claude Code. So again, if you haven't seen my previous videos, go ahead and check that out. But there's a way to, Claude Code is a client, an MCP client. So you can attach MCP servers to it. So I have a list of tools available here. If I go in here, I can see all the tools. If I go down, I should be able to see get presentations. Did we pass it up? Get presentations, there it is. And if we look under here, we can see the installed MCP servers. I have one called the Java MCP server. So what I can do now is go ahead and say, can you provide me a list of all presentations from JavaOne? Now, it might have been able to go out and do this, especially now that search capabilities are built into Claude. Claude didn't have search capabilities before. Other tools did, like OpenAI's ChatGPT or Google Gemini. You might be able to go find those, but maybe not exactly what we're looking for, right? Like I gave it a hard code set of data. And so now I should be able to go ahead and run this. It's going to say, oh, I see you have a tool to get presentations from that. Do I have access to access that MCP server? Yes, go ahead and access that. So it's going to say, all right, I can get a list of those. Here's a list of presentations from JavaOne 2025. And now we have this list, and we can go ahead and click on these links and watch the videos. So really cool, building a simple kind of hello world MCP server in Java using the official Java SDK without any other frameworks involved. If you just want to use Java, you can do that with this SDK. And it's pretty easy to get up and running. So man, I had a lot of fun putting this together. If you learned something new today, do me a big favor, friends, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and as always, happy coding.